Hello, you are tuning in to Uneducated Guests with Josiah. I'm your host, Josiah. I'm a senior in high school that has to do a project for a college class, but I didn't feel like looking anything up, so here I am. Today we are going to, I'm going to, not we. I mean, you can listen, but we're going to talk about human, enhancements, I keep wanting to say genetic enhancements, 'cause I've been playing Fallout 76, but, because genetic mutations in that game, fun stuff with radiation. But no, today I'm going to talk about, cyber enhancements and stuff, like you see in the movies. Because I just think that's really interesting, and I started thinking about it because, well, I don't know anything about it except for what I've seen in the movies. I mean, so basically, you can get cybernetic limbs and stuff like that. I've seen them make I've seen a few articles on it. I didn't really read into detail on them, but I'm pretty sure like so they're robotic limbs, right? And they work like your normal limbs because they somehow attach them to your ligaments and bones and all that fun stuff. So it's just controlled by thought, and I thought that was a really cool concept. And how far could the human mind go with that? Where we could just Doc Ock and Spider-Man, he or she, whatever Spider-Man you want to go with Doc Ock, they had the cybernetic limb octopus hands that were controlled by their mind. Well, could we theoretically do that on as a human species and just keep going with genetic or not, god damn it, with cyber enhancements? Like in Fallout 4, he's got the Kellogg. He's super, he's lived for a long time, and he's in his 30s somehow, because he's got cyber enhancements. He's got super strength or something, because he's a cybernetic limb actuator, I want to say, and a cyber brain implant that's attached to his hippocampus, which has something to do with memories. So I'm assuming that means he can remember long-term stuff, and it's actually a really cool concept how they plug him into Nick Valentine, which is an entire robot, and are able to send the player into Kellogg's mind. But could you go into other people's minds and stuff with that also, and have a mind link with the cybernetic enhancements? And yes, they've got the cool limbs and stuff, but could they make a RoboCop type armor? Well, not even armor, it'd be a body, because you'd be basically a cyborg at that point. Because RoboCop has very little human appendages from what I've remembered. I've seen all three of them. Oh, the one where he had the jetpack was so bad. I loved the first one though. That's always gonna have a place in my heart because it's just a really good movie. And whenever after he gets shot to crap and is getting turned on over time, I really love those flashes through his eyes, and you're looking under the tarp as you're out getting turned on for the show and tell, and everyone's oh, it's RoboCop, Murphy, you're alive. And I also think it's a really cool concept that his brain is somehow rewired, right? But he still has those flashes of memories when he's near his old house, I think, and different things like that, because he remembers it, but he doesn't at the same time. So he always is gonna have that human piece to him, even though he's technically a robot with robot coding, which I don't really get how they were managed to compute and change his brain basically and make him a robot. Because I mean, that's actually really cool technology, the ability to turn a human into a robot. Because all a computer is an electronic mind, if you think about it. So the ability to interface the human body with robotic technology, making just us stronger as a race, but yet more vulnerable, because then again, if you're part robot, couldn't you be susceptible to viruses in the sense of the common cold, or a computer virus, both in the same sense? So therefore you'd have twice the weaknesses. And yes, you could talk about firewalls and stuff like that, like they have on computers, but wouldn't it theoretically be possible to hack into a cybergenetically altered human and be able to control whatever they have that's changed in them? If you have a robot arm, could somebody somehow hack into it and like control your arm. Like that'd be a scary thought. You're just like ripping your own skin off or something. That's just kind of messed up. But like you always see movies like Predator or not, yeah, Predator, that's the right one. Like and stuff like that with like the X-ray vision. Well, could that be like or not X-ray, infrared? There we go. I'm all over the place today. So they have the infrared vision, like that's like how robots see and different things like that. But is it really like? I don't understand that. Like, why do we assume all robots see in infrared? Couldn't we like put like human eyes in a robot so they would have like full color and depth and everything like that? Or are we just like, no, you're a robot. You're gonna see in red because it's gonna suck. Especially when the viewer's trying to watch the movie and everything just changes color schemes. Or is in like heat seeking. Yeah. So heat seeking vision, like I don't get it. And like, yeah, it's nice in movies and stuff when it only outlines humans. But what about like animals and stuff that would be like heat seeking everywhere? Like, wait, are ants cold blooded? I don't know if ants are cold blooded or not. That's kind of weird because they're an exoskeleton, right? But do they have blood? Like we have blood, right? But it's like red when it gets oxygenated. But like like if you ever crushed an ant open, I mean it's like, isn't it like a goo? I'd assume it's like a goo, but that's beside the point. Also, on this fact or on the not on the subject of blood, do we really need it? Because if you think about it, right, our veins and everything, they're like highways that the blood travels on, right? So all the blood is like a car, or like no, think about it like a vein is like a subway tunnel, right? And the blood is basically just the subway train. So it's moving like the vitamins, the iron, and all that fun stuff, and the oxygen. That's the most important one. Through like those are all like sitting in the like side of the train, waiting to get off of their stops, basically. So could you replace blood with another like Newtonian fluid? I think is what it would be called, because it's not non-Newtonian. Non-Newtonian means it like gets hard when it gets hit. So like that one stuff they use in like TV shows, like it's like oxygen rich fluid. It's like super water, except it's like a gel, and so you breathe it in. It feels like you're drowning, right? But you're actually like breathing it in. Oh, that sounds so awful. But if you think about it, we could replace our blood with that, and it would be the exact same effect because it's just transport. All blood is it's just transporting different things. Like, I mean, yeah, our bodies would have to adjust to not having blood, and we'd probably like change different colors because, well, based on the thing, our blood's what defines like or gives us like color and stuff. So if we change the blood as like a highway, it would theoretically change our color, I think. I mean, pigment has some to do with that, but think about it. Every time you see like a dead body or something, I mean, that's a bad example. Like, who looks at dead bodies that often? Besides really weird people, huh? But they go gray, right? So when they go gray, that means they're like lifeless and dead. So basically, their blood's gone. Or is that no? That's just their oxygen leaving. So like your blood doesn't really matter. You just need oxygen, right? So if you have the oxygen, like an oxygen-rich like fluid going through your blood, God, see you even say bloodstream, but it's not technically the bloodstream. It's like a vein, but like you don't need the blood in that vein. It could just be like a fluid that's oxygen filled and can transport vitamins and iron and stuff like that. I don't want to call iron a vitamin because whenever you think of iron, you think like metal, right? But like, wait, is there actual like? I know it takes like 100 bodies to make like get enough iron in people's blood to make a dagger. I think I learned that off one of those Uber posts. Uber facts, that's what they're called. I mean, I'm not sure if they're right or not, but you know, hey, quick facts. So, could you oh wow. So, on cybernetic limbs, if you replace the human blood or body, right? So they're basically part robot, part human. Then you replace their blood with like the oxygen rich fluids. Would it work like a human body, but it just be like much more resilient to like cancers and diseases and stuff like that because you know you're a robot. But then again, if a cyborg gets a cold, that would kind of be really weird. Also, like, so if you're mostly robot, would you need to eat as much, or could you eat like small amounts and it still be sufficient to sustain your body? Because, like, think about it. So you eat a lot to gain like muscle mass or like gain weight, right? But if you're part robot, you can eat a little bit because you'd still be retaining what weight you have, because you wouldn't have as much. You wouldn't lose weight as much because you'd be less active. Like if your arms and legs were robotic, your body wouldn't. I don't think it would register that as basically physical activity, because it's robotic and you can't, like, robots don't get tired because they just can do whatever they want till they break, basically. But then again, if it's got like synthetic muscles and stuff like that with a synthetic blood, like robots' blood is basically oil, right? So if you had synthetic like muscles, synthetic veins, and synthetic everything like that, it would be kind of interesting, because would it act like the human body still, or would it be a completely new like development and thing? But that's getting into artificial intelligence. And if you think about it, RoboCop's basically just a robot with artificial intelligence, because I think they suppressed his memories or something, so he couldn't remember all of it. In the what was that? Oh yeah, so the comic series Blade, which they also made into movies, which I thought the first movie was all right. I'm told the the second movie was the absolute worst. I've been told. I don't think I've seen the third one. The plot for the first movie was atrocious though. Like, they basically compiled the entire first comic book series, because Marvel also has turned the comic books into like episodes on Marvel anime somethings. But those, they actually make really good content, because they're just literally turning the graphic comics into like just animating it. It's really well done, and it stays pretty similar. But I enjoy that but they basically compiled the entire villain into like, they've compiled all the movies and all the comic book series villains and just mix matched them, like, oh, that's gonna be fine. But it made absolutely no sense. Like, I think Frost was the vampire's name in the first movie. Well, in the comic books, Frost, his entire goal was to genetically alter vampires, and he did that till he became the best vamp and strongest vampire, and that's why he has four fangs and bit his mom. In this one, he's just a two-fang prick that owns clubs. But that's besides the point. So, wait, what was I going on? Genetic enhancements with that. But, oh yeah, okay. So, they made vampire soldiers to fight in Vietnam in that comic book series, and they were able to suppress their memories and everything, but they had to take like a certain drug or something, or maybe it was like it was genetic enhancement, or not genetic, cybernetic enhancement, and it suppressed their memories, but it also controlled them, which was really kind of weird. It was basically a mind control chip that also suppressed memories, but basically most of them, there was like a whole group of like 20 of them that were like that, and then they canceled the project and basically kept them in the Vietnam forests. And so they ended up taking all their chips out, and one by one they just died. They had the guilt of all the people they've killed, because they like burned whole villages to the ground without even realizing it or knowing it. And it like weighed on them so much, cuz it's basically, there was another movie like it where it blurred out your subconscious, so you're killing civilians but it registers them as like, you're killing like civilians and humans, but it's registering them as like evil aliens. I forgot what movie that was. I think it was a good movie. I can't actually remember. But it's basically like that, and like whenever unblurred, the guilt got so much for them that they just walked out into the sun and killed themselves. So there was only one, which Blade met, and then he ended up killing himself also. Well, I think Blade may have put him out of his memory. I can't remember. Or misery, not memory. I mean, technically he put him out of his memory. But that's so, whenever that happened, would you be able to do that with like different robotics and like robotically enhanced people? You just turn them into mass killing machines. And that's another thing that would be bad about that's the first thing I've actually brought up, though. The military owning cybernetically enhanced soldiers be really bad, like Captain America or something, because they could theoretically change his mind, or change not his mind, his view, by genetic or cybernetically enhancing him to not see enemy soldier, or not see enemy soldiers, to see like bad people as like, or good people as enemies, and just having him kill everyone, which would be like, really bad PR disaster if anyone found out. Hint hint. But basically, cybernetics is really dangerous, especially when you get down to it, about like slaughtering mass amounts of people. But would it technically help our cause as a human race by making us stronger, smarter? Like, a computer can break everything down and think really fast, but if you like mix the human mind with a computer, would it be twice as susceptible to different kinds of diseases or attacks? We might never know, but it could theoretically destroy the human way of life by having the literal like Terminator sequence. But it's ourselves that we taxed so much with robotic enhancements that the robotics enhancements and AI take over and just kill all the rest of the human and decide to do their own thing. But they could still harvest humans for parts and stuff, and then that goes into human cattlery. Like, I forgot which Terminator it was. They ended up basically furthering the plot by, so you see everyone like getting killed, right? And then they're just like, no, this single group of people we're going to put in this giant Terminator robot looking thing's chest and take him to the main base to kill, because that's got the main character for some reason, which I don't really get, because they're just killing them. They're not like harvesting them for anything. They're not like forcing them to mate and to mate, like keep humans slaves. No, they're just killing them, which makes absolutely no sense but to further the plot. So cybernetic enhancements are really cool sounding. Like, I would get like a robot eye because that sounds pretty awesome. They do have cybernetic enhancements not theoretically, it's real, but it's not to the degree of being awful yet, because it's like they have hearing aids. Well, they're not really hearing aids. They drill into like deaf people's brains and like stick tubes in it and stuff. I've seen he's a very nice Asian gentleman who's working with a scout troop in my Decatur area. He's a very nice man, but he was deaf, I think. I think he was born deaf. I'm not 100% sure on this. But he's basically got a plastic disc in the side of his head. I mean, it's not really, I mean, it's noticeable, right? But it's not like nothing to stare, it's nothing to stare at. It's just it looks like plastic cover. But it's basically so he can hear, because he was born deaf or something. And I think, so that's a cybernetic enhancement, and I think that's really cool. But can they do that with eyes? Like, I know they did surgery on a grape. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. But that was basically for eye doctors testing on eye surgeries. But could you technically make an artificial eye that sees everything? Like, I think women see like colors differently than men because they have like a fourth cone or something. But if like they make robotic eyes for like blind people, that would be really revolutionary, because then they would see, like, they make colorblind glasses, which isn't really a cybernetic enhancement. However, it is like an enhancement in general, because they go from not being able to see color to seeing color, but it's just glasses. It's not like in their eye. Like on Futurama, they had iPhone, where it looked like a Bluetooth device, and they just jammed it in their eyes. It was terrible. Had no battery life. You didn't have a choice of a color, and it was basically ripping on Apple for being so what's the word, closed off, I guess, closed off by their peers and everything. Like, oh, it's not open interface, that's what it's called. But basically, if you have cybernetic enhancement, you'd have to make them closed off. So I feel like Apple, well, if Steve Jobs were still alive, because now their quality control is garbage. But if Apple were to make cybernetic enhancements with Steve Jobs still there, I feel like they would be good. Like, or not good, they would be a lot quality cybernetics enhancements, but they would, harm the users a lot or something like that. And because Apple's just, you see Apple as a big corporation, so you see them as evil. Well, this is all the time I have for today, guys. So I will see you guys in a few seconds. And that's all till now. Elevator music, go. back after doing some research on cybernetic enhancements. So I found a few different mind control sort of enhancements. They're controlled by brain impulses like the Luke arm, which is named after Luke Skywalker, which I found interesting. It was funded by DARPA, and it's basically has, I think, 14 motors in it to be able to move in different ways, and it's for some reason it's controlled by his or her feet, as they quote, by switches that let you manipulate different joints all at once. But it was selected to be used by military groups. So they got it tested and approved by the FDA, which I think is actually really interesting. The Food and Drug Association signing off on a military, prosthetic. But that's not why I'm here to research the FDA. So that's about $100,000, which seems kind of steep, as I will be going into more affordable, emphasis on affordable, because everything's not very expensive, but there's a hefty price tag on it, which is kind of ridiculous. But prosthetics company I thought was really interesting is Bebonics. They have also made a similar hand. Before I get into Bebonics, I think the Luke arm also's got this, why it's so expensive, it has prosthetic skin on it, which is not really, it's hard to explain. Well, basically the prosthetic skin just allows you to feel like touch, but I don't really understand how you feel things, but basically it lets you sense weight differences. Like I'm not sure if you can tell the difference between hot and cold, soft and all that stuff, but when you pick up, say, a 10-pound weight, you'd be able to tell that it's heavy and coarse. And when you touch something that's like styrofoam, you can tell it's like softer and light or something like that. It's got weight pressure bearing skin on it. But back onto Bebionics, they have, I think, the better design, and it's also much more affordable. So the Bebionics is also commercially available for about $11,000, I think, which is actually really a lot more affordable than a $100,000 for ex-military veterans. It's $11,000. Anyone can buy it. So that arm, though, is controlled by impulses in the stump, basically, that come from the brain, which is whole fun system of design and human body that I don't feel like going over. But basically it's controlled, and it's got different patterns that you can grip onto things, and it's apparently it became commercially available since 2010, but it's delicate enough to hold an egg between the index and the thumb, which I think is really interesting, because when you think of robotic hand, you think of Terminator crushing everything because you don't know your own strength. But this also, I believe, has pressure sensors, so you can tell how hard you squeeze and stuff. But basically you can hold an egg between your thumb and finger, but it's also coarse enough to, I believe, hold 99 pounds, but I am not 100% sure if that's between the index or thumb finger, or not index. Yeah, index or thumb finger. So if it is, that's scary strong. But I'm assuming they just meant it can lift 99 pounds with the entire arm and hand. But if it was the thumb and index finger, that'd be kind of scary. But they've been designing that still, and it's still today, but it's under the company name Autobucks, and you are able to purchase it for $11,000 still, I'm pretty sure. So that's very much more commercially available than $100,000 military arm. But then we've also got the same technology being put into a bionic leg. So they've made the prosthetic where it has the sensors of the brain's impulses, but it's only been used for hands and stuff like that up until 2012, because this software designer was amputated in 2010, but he was able to basically use the same type of technology that they use for brain impulses for arms and put it into a leg, and he can move like every joint and every digit independently. So it's saying how much our technology is advancing in just certain number of years. Like the FDA approved the Skywalker arm in 2014, which it didn't have as much movement, I don't think, as the Babyonics, which was created in 2010, but it did have the sensory feelings, which I think's a lot more like, well, not necessarily advanced. I mean, it's advanced in the way of prosthetic skin, which I think's really cool, but it's not necessarily the most viable option for day-to-day tasks, as in Babyonic can like move stuff, which is, and use zippers. They were showing that stuff off, which I thought was really interesting. But then so besides limbs, there is also this Toronto filmmaker who had lost his right eye, right? That was right too many times. So he was able to work with basic technology developers and a wireless film company or something. Let's see if I can find that name. RF Wireless Design. And he was able to build a fake eye shell, which I'm assuming had like the lens pre-built in, and they were able to fill it with enough hardware in such a confined space that he's able to, well, wear the prosthetic eye inside of his eye, because you know how glass eyes, you just stick in the hole. Oh gosh, that was awful. But you stick it in the eye socket, and you can, so the battery life, well, from the article I was reading, was 30 minutes of recording footage, and I'm assuming it's wirelessly transmitted to, I think it's at a camcorder of some type. So it's not the best resolution, but I mean, he filmed an entire documentary on it, which is titled Deus Ex, the Iborg documentary, which is sort of a play on words, which I find kind of amusing. But I think it was very interesting that he was able to do that, and it's just really cool how they invented the prosthetic eye like that and able to camcord it, and so it's actual first-person view because it's coming from his eye, which I think that's actually a really nice filming technique. I love first-person movies like Hardcore Henry, but they've also got exoskeletons for people who are completely paralyzed from like the waist down and stuff like that. And one of the suits I looked up was called Suit X. It is created, it's an exoskeleton created by the Robotics and Human Engineering Laboratory in the at the University of California. It's got an 8-hour battery pack, which is, I mean, it's pretty good. That's a hefty day of walking around, but it was made to to help people walking and prevent gosh, I can't talk today. It'll prevent the other problems that go along with sitting in like a wheelchair or stuff like that for years or like on end. It'll help you walk and all that stuff. I think the creator said something along the lines of, we can't help their disease or the damage it's done, but we can help prevent the damage that causes by using wheelchairs and stuff like that. And I thought that was really nice. I mean, it also costs $40,000, so I mean, he's not that nice. Am I right? I'm bad. Also, I went over, so I mean, I was pretty right on the arms and different prosthetics like that. I mean, it's not necessarily like Terminator, apparently. It'll be more like, so another one I think I read this on Forbes, a quote from another engineer. He said that it wouldn't end like Terminator. It would be more or less like Avatar, the scene where, I can't remember who it was. He was in the giant forklift exosuit, basically trying to kill the avatars. It'd be more like that for humans. And on the artificial intelligence stage, we would have similar things like Sophia the robot, who got citizenship in Saudi Arabia. And she's a woman robot, so I don't really understand that, because they're kind of very Saudi law or something. Sharia law, which basically prevents, women. But I mean, she's not real, so. But she does have intelligence and feelings and stuff like that, which I thought was really interesting. And so she's a good robot. She has sarcasm and stuff like that, even though she has a very robotic tone by videos and stuff I've seen. It's kind of cool that they've gotten that far to let robots understand human emotion, and like she can sense human behavior and stuff like that, which sounds kind of dangerous to me. But I thought that was pretty cool. And I also went over on a little rant about changing your blood with a non blood liquid, basically, because it's just a superhighway. Well, doctors are technically doing that, but you're not necessarily alive after, but you're not necessarily dead. They replace it with saline, which I think is salt of some sort, because I read saline's a salt solution of some sort. But basically, they replace your entire bloodstream of like a patient that's been like shot or something with saline, so they're not alive or dead, and they can operate them on hours end. And then after they finish operating, they basically pump the blood back into the person, take out the saline solution, and they're alive. It's called suspended animation, and there's a lot of controversy over it, but I thought that was a really interesting concept, and I'm still not sure how far away we are from actually just replacing blood in general. I mean, we couldn't necessarily replace white blood cells or platelets, but we could at least replace the red blood cells, because all they really do is they're basically a superhighway with the plasma and just transporting vitamins and oxygen and iron. So if you replace the red blood cells, you could have necessarily a more viscous fluid that's a lot more clear, or opaque at least. And it would also change not necessarily the skin tone, or well, not skin pigment necessarily, but it would change your skin tone slightly. I believe, because we get our skin color basically from the blood cells. Like if you ever seen a dead body, they're gray. I went over this also. But I just thought that was a very interesting concept, because the red blood cells from they're red because of the iron in them. So I just thought that was a very interesting concept, and this appears to be all the time we have for today. So I will catch you guys on the next episode. That is all. Bye.